"You'll never be as good as me," my golden child sister announced, finger knifing at the door. As she labeled me, the family failure. She didn't know Grandma would announce a $1 million seed next, and the room turned over. Hey Reddit. So, quick intro. I'm Daniel, 32 male, the practice child. If you asked my parents which kid came factory sealed with excellence, they'd point at my sister Kate, 2 years older, GPA that could file its own taxes, and a grin that says, "Congratulations on being not me." My parents are lawyers, the cocktail party kind who collect partners' names like trading cards. Respect is their religion. Bragging is communion. They expected 2 matching prodigies, shrink-wrapped. Small snag. I arrived defective. Human, not a resume. I drew the epilepsy card early. Seizures from blink and you'll miss to lights out. Meds made my brain dial up. A counselor floated a 504. My parents killed it with no labels in this family. Translation: aspiration over accuracy. Teachers saw daydreaming. It was buffering. The scoreboard was Olympic. Kate's A's meant balloons and upgrades. My C's got a TED Talk on tanking the brand. She was the real child trademark. I was the plot twist. Kate ran management by middle school, tattled like legal, postured like PR, and curated crowds for photos. People attended the event, not the person. Same school, different species. Teachers met Daniel and saw Kate adjacent. I even seized mid-exam, retook it foggy, scored worse. Dad called it excuses. The teacher mentioned the medical note. Dad heard disappointment. They didn't whisper it. They published it. Kate's reel looped. I got Daniel's finding himself. Parents speak for, "We've lost him." Black sheep status, confirmed. Here's the sampler. 14. Seizure the night before a math exam. I still take it and crater. The teacher calls with the note. Dad barges in. "You embarrassed us." And Kate adds, "Try studying." Villain origin energy. Senior year was laminated. Dinner as Kate Con. I spared the Ivies the postage, aimed where grit mattered, and an offer landed. No confetti, just air. Mine. I brought the acceptance to the kitchen. Community college? Dad sneered. Kate did stand up about baristas and preheating the room. Dad closed with, "Don't mention your college again. It's embarrassing." 2 doors, audition forever, or build without an audience. I chose receipts and ramen, bike deliveries at night, help desk in the morning, geometry on weekends, binder clips and bad coffee kept the wheels on. Work tasted like air. Parents hosted Kate Talks. I skipped the screenings. Even Grandma's diplomacy slipped. 2 engineers walked, a pilot paused. Kate called it a culture upgrade. Graduations. Hers got a banquet and slideshow. Mine was parking lot fries with 2 friends. Best ceremony I've had. News traveled. Dad called, skipped, congrats, and went straight to, "Don't expect help, you've made your bed." I didn't get angry, the line was too rehearsed. It wasn't cutting the cord, it was dropping the call. Mom added she regretted the resources wasted. Direct quote, "Poetry, if you hate your audience." That was it for me. I hung up the phone, blocked their numbers, and decided I was done. No more trying to win their approval, no more waiting for them to see me as good enough. If they thought I was gone from their lives, fine. I'd make it official. I stopped showing up at family events, stopped answering messages, cut Kate off completely. It wasn't even a dramatic goodbye. I just disappeared. Then came the grind years. Classes, seizures, clock-ins. Distance was quiet and for once mine. No daily comparisons, no household scoreboard, just work, sleep, repeat. Imperfect, yes. But it beat being the family heavy bag. Kate resurfaced once with an email titled, "Level up or opt out," ending in, "Step it up if you want to be taken seriously." No greeting, just branding. Marked as read by the void. By the time I transferred out, the thesis was simple. I function better off their grid. If I'm the black sheep, I'll pick the pasture. That was the last ping for almost a decade. No holidays, no calls, just airplane mode family. Best feature I ever enabled. Cutting them off wasn't cinematic, it was practical. Block mute. New lock. The air got bigger. No lectures, no parades, no Kate cameos. Just dishes in my sink and work with my name on it. Transfer in, juggle on, seizures, shifts, syllabi. Every time Dad's waist echoed, it turned into cardio. Fine. Watch. I stumbled into a stats class that felt like turning a noisy room into subtitles. Numbers don't care about pedigree. I stacked projects, shipped a scrappy capstone, and landed an analyst job. Not flashy, a paycheck that breathed back. Capstone. Built a churn risk model for a student-run e-shop. Turned vibes into numbers. First job, dashboards for a local logistics outfit, where trucks speak in timestamps and the boss speaks in size. Kate specialized in pre-assembled success, references, funding, soft landings. I specialized in ramen, secondhand desks, and receipts. Turns out, sweat is a credential. 2 years in, a networking zombie chat turned into a build. Nights, weekends, duct tape. First client signed at 2:13 a.m. over cold lo mein. Not a fairy tale, just a contract with our names on it. We built an anomaly flagger for small e-commerce. Shopify pipes in our way, we catch weird spikes, coupon abuse, inventory ghosts. Not glamorous, but it saved owners from waking up to, why are we sold out of socks we never stocked? I became the data guy, the one who made sense of all the information we were pulling in. My partner handled the business side. Together, we somehow made it work. I remember sitting in our tiny office the day we signed our first big client thinking, if Kate could see me now, she'd choke. Not because I wanted her approval, but because I knew she'd hate that I pulled it off without her perfect path or my parents' money. Meanwhile, the family PR team had no idea I existed. No address, no job title, just static. Silence was the only update worth sending. New number, P.O. box, and a social media settings tour. Family group chat, muted. Holiday invites, bounced by a filter labeled performative. Grandma sent birthday cards with crooked stamps and called to ask if I was eating greens. She didn't buy the black sheep script. She just asked if I had socks. My friends learned seizure protocol without making it a personality test. One carried electrolyte packets, another memorized the recovery steps. That beat any household pep talk. Then the company started paying for furniture that didn't wobble. I bought a couch that wasn't a geological formation and watched my savings bar crawl upward. Not lawyer money, mine. Kate launched something with a logo and luggage tags. Parents bragged, grandma relayed. Golden child programming continued. I preferred the ghost plan. Fewer jump scares. Work, sleep, grandma's occasional check-ins. I left the calendar blank for family and nothing collapsed. The quiet held. The quiet held until Aunt Helen texted a screenshot of Mom's event spreadsheet like she'd found state secrets. Columns for optics, talking points, photo order. My name sat in a yellow cell labeled contingency, wedged between backup cupcakes and the rain plan. Under notes it said, if he appears, seat away from cameras. No mic access. 3 days later, a courier knocked. I signed for an envelope heavier than my rent check. Family firm letterhead, crest, watermark, the whole Dickens. Subject line, notice regarding family reputation and event conduct. The letter banned unsanctioned remarks or toasts, any mention of medical issues or private family history, and even the use of our surname in any entrepreneurial or promotional context. It dictated conservative executive dress and warned to avoid attention-seeking footwear, finishing with, by attending, you consent to abide by these conditions. They CC'd the caterer. The caterer. I set it on the table like a museum piece, made coffee, and annotated it in red pen like a petty English teacher. I circled family surname and wrote, so I legally can't call myself me? I starred no medical issues and added, noted, silence is golden, especially about chronic illness. By footwear, I drew a smiley face and wrote, boots it is. Aunt Helen's play-by-play explained the escalation. Grandma put my name on the guest list. Mom moved it to the contingency column. Dad called me a brand risk. Someone at the firm said, send a stern notice, as if we were litigating a birthday. Reputation by certified mail, on brand. I wrote a plan on an index card. I'd arrive early and take the chair beside Grandma before optics rearranged the room. I'd fold the letter twice and pocket it as a prop, carry 2 photocopies stamped Exhibit A, and keep my toast short. First names only, all I statements. I'd stay sober because calm wins on camera. I mapped a triangle of allies. Aunt Helen near my 1 o'clock, cousin Liv behind me with a phone, Victor by the piano, and parked a block away in boots that could leave if the brand grew legs. My reply was short and screenshot ready. Received. I don't consent to gag orders at a birthday party. I'll be there for Margaret. If you're worried about microphones, don't hand me one. Mom's delivery bounced in that familiar unsent attempt way. Aunt Helen answered with 3 popcorn emojis and Godspeed. I slid the original into a plastic sleeve. Petty shouldn't smudge. Tucked the copies into an envelope marked Tuesday, and set a reminder that said, bring receipts. Then I ironed a shirt I already owned. Conservative executive, minus the executive, and laced boots that squeak just enough to irritate a seating chart. That's how the letter became the program. They mailed me a muzzle. I turned it into a microphone. I packed the letter, the copies, and a spine I hadn't unpacked in that house for years, and I drove. The drive cut through my old map, past the courthouse where my parents collect handshakes, the strip mall where I once tutored algebra for cash, the pharmacy that used to refill my fog. I rehearsed the toast in 3 sentences, then 2, then 1, tapping the plastic sleeve in my jacket like a talisman. If the room turned hostile, I'd keep it clean. If my hands shook, I'd hold the glass with both. Boots steady on the pedals, I breathed in 4s. A green light turned yellow. I coasted through on the legal side of stubborn. Somewhere between stoplights, the anger cooled into aim. Not vengeance, clarity. Exhibit A rode shotgun. Inside, the house had been converted into a set. Blue painter's tape X's dotted the rug. A rented light tree threw warmth that didn't reach the corners. A clipboard kid in black asked me to sign the release for family media, pen already hovering. I smiled and slid the pen back into his pocket. On an easel, photo order, with Kate's name highlighted 3 times and mine nowhere. Just a sticky note that read, contingency. It read like a press day, not a birthday. Optics with a capital O. Aunt Helen caught my eye and gave the smallest nod toward the living room. A little lane through the crowd that said, take it. I kept my hands out, sleeves down, letter silent against my ribs. Not yet. First, air. 2 cousins froze mid-hug like they'd spotted a ghost. A third wrapped me anyway. Whisper lines braided through the room and then snapped quiet when Grandma stood. Some of my cousins looked like they'd seen a ghost. A couple of them actually hugged me, like they didn't believe I was real. Aunt Helen nearly dropped her drink when she spotted me. People were whispering, giving me these curious looks. It had been almost a decade since I'd shown my face at any family gathering. So yeah, it was a shocker. Then I saw Grandma. She was sitting in her favorite chair in the corner of the living room, smiling ear to ear the second she spotted me. I went straight over, hugged her, and she whispered, "Thank you for coming, Danny. I knew you'd be here." That alone made the whole trip worth it. Of course, it didn't take long for the storm clouds to roll in. My parents spotted me about 10 minutes later. The look on my mom's face could have curdled milk. My dad froze mid-conversation like someone had just pulled the fire alarm. They didn't come over right away. They just kept staring, whispering to each other, probably debating who'd get the honor of telling me to get lost. Eventually, my mom swooped in. She had that fake smile plastered on her face, the one she used on clients she secretly hated. She leaned in close and said, "Daniel, can we talk privately?" It wasn't really a question, more like a command. She led me to one of the side rooms, my dad trailing behind her like her shadow. The door shut, and the fake smile vanished instantly. My mom's voice went cold. "What are you doing here?" I blinked at her. Grandma invited me. Kind of her party, you know?" My dad cut in, his tone sharper. "Why now? You've ignored every family event for years. And suddenly, you show up at this one? You didn't even warn us." I shrugged, staying calm. "Didn't realize I needed your permission to see my own grandmother. She asked me to come, that's all." They didn't like that answer. My mom's eyes narrowed. "You shouldn't have come. People are going to ask questions. We can't have you dragging the family name down again." I laughed a little, because what else can you do at that point? Dragging the family name down? You're lawyers, not royalty. Nobody cares. My dad stepped forward, his face turning red. "You don't get it. We've worked hard to build our reputation. Kate is thriving and now you show up out of nowhere? What are we supposed to tell people?" And then my mom hit me with it. Word for word. "People can't know you're still a failure. You'll ruin my image." I just stared at her, like, wow. 10 years of silence and that's the first thing she decides to say to me? Not, "How have you been?" Not, "Glad you could make it?" Just straight to, "You're a failure. Leave." Classic. For a second, I felt that old familiar anger bubbling up, the one I had as a teenager when they used to lecture me for existing wrong. But I didn't let it show. I stayed cool. I said, "If you don't like me being here, that's your problem. Grandma wanted me here. I'm not leaving because you're worried about your image." That clearly wasn't the answer they wanted. My dad's jaw tightened. "We wish we could ignore you, but people will start asking questions. You should have told us so we could have been prepared." I tilted my head. Prepared for what? Someone asking about me? Just tell them the truth. Tell them I'm doing fine. I'm working. I've got a life. I've got people who actually care about me. It's not that complicated. My mom scoffed. "You expect us to believe you've built a successful life? You didn't even graduate from a proper school." For the record, I transferred later. Articulation agreement, new meds, GPA with a pulse. My mother never updated her firmware. That one actually made me laugh out loud. "You'll see," I said. And I meant it. She pointed at the door like she was sentencing me. "You should leave. Now, before people notice." I shook my head, smiling. "Nope, not this time. And I walked right past them back into the party. A junior associate, hair shellacked, earpiece in, swept toward the table and started collecting forks like contraband. I palmed one on instinct and slid it into my jacket, the way you pocket a coin before a trick. The glassware stayed, the fork didn't. Across the room, Aunt Helen repositioned herself near Grandma. Victor drifted to the piano like chance. I felt for the letter. Folded twice, crease sharp. It stayed pocketed. Evidence, not spectacle. I counted 4 breaths, then 4 more, and let the room settle around me like a coat. If they wanted a muzzle, they shouldn't have mailed me a prop. When I came back out, Grandma clocked me from her chair, concern tucked behind the smile. I tapped my glass once and handed her the fork. She stood. The room turned to her. Victor hit a soft piano note. Cameras dipped. Grandma cleared her throat, steady and bright. Grandma said, "Thank you for celebrating my 85th. Before cake, I want to celebrate my grandson, Daniel." Some of you know headlines. I know the chapters. Daniel put himself through school, learned to live with epilepsy without making it anyone else's job, and built a company that helps small businesses catch problems before they become disasters. He signs paychecks. He keeps promises. He builds quietly and lets results speak. He is thriving. Now the fun part. I have created the Margaret seed for Daniel's company. $1 million, transferring this week. No leash, no strings, no board seat. This is belief, not control. Paperwork's done. The wire is queued. And because I like a good multiplier, I'm opening a matching pool up to $500,000. If you want to back Daniel too, see Aunt Helen for pledge cards. To Daniel, proof that character compounds. Raise your glasses. About time someone said it out loud. Proud of you, man. I'm in for a pledge. Send me the deck. I want to see more. Glasses rose. Aunt Helen, good for you, Danny. Victor, proud of you, son. A cousin whistled. Another mouthed, send the deck. My fingers loosened around the rim. The fork in Grandma's hand pinged the glass once more by accident, and the room laughed with her. Quick pause, fellas. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way. Thanks so much for your support. All right, back to the drama. Then the kitchen door banged the wall. Kate cut through the crowd. Smile preloaded. Are you kidding me? Community college? That's the headline? She pointed at me like a witness box. The air in the room turned cold. People froze, not sure if they should say anything. But Kate wasn't done. She marched closer, pointed right at me and went on, and your so-called startup? Everyone's got one these days. Most fail in a year. You'll never be on my level, Daniel. Ever. You'll always be the family embarrassment. She was in full performance mode. Chin up, smug little smirk, talking like she was addressing a jury. My parents stood behind her, silent but clearly letting her speak for them. I didn't move. Funny thing, Kate, I don't remember asking for your approval. I tipped my glass toward the pledge cards. Your level looks exhausting. A couple cousins chuckled under their breath. That set her off even more. She got red in the face, started stammering about how she was the real success story of the family, how mom and dad were proud of her. Not me. Grandma stood. Enough. Kate stalled mid-sentence. Not in my house. Not tonight. A palm flick. Out. Kate huffed, heels loud down the hall. The door thudded. Air moved. The rest of the family turned back to me, and instead of judgment, I saw support. Cousins came up to pat me on the back. Aunt Helen hugged me. Victor gave me a firm handshake. Even some people who never really spoke to me before came over and said they were glad I was there. I just smiled, stayed chill, and cracked a joke. Well, that went better than expected. The room laughed, and just like that, the tension broke. I rinsed cake knives at the sink with 2 cousins while Aunt Helen traded pledge cards for emails. Victor played As Time Goes By too slow, and Grandma shushed him, laughing. Someone handed me a trash bag. Someone else squeezed my shoulder. I wasn't a ghost. I stacked plates. 3 quiet days. Then, fists on my door like a battering ram. It was a Saturday afternoon. I was home catching up on work stuff when I heard banging on my door. Not knocking. Banging. Like the cops were there. I peeked through the peephole and, surprise, surprise, it's Kate. Same smug face, except this time she looked more angry than smug. I thought about not opening the door, but she wasn't going away, and I didn't want my neighbors thinking I was harboring a fugitive, so I opened it a crack. She waved her phone, Grandma's address book open in a photo, my name circled in ballpoint. She immediately shoved it wider and barged in like she owned the place. She popped a window. It smells bootstrap. On her way to the couch. I'll have Dad call your landlord. This building listens to us. No hello. She cut past me, claimed the couch, and started yelling. You humiliated Mom and Dad. Reputation. Mud. I leaned on the wall, arms folded, set my phone face down recording on the console table, and let the reel run. When she finally paused to breathe, I said, Kate, relax. I told the truth. If that embarrasses Mom and Dad, that's on them. That's when she got this nasty look in her eye. She stepped closer, pointed her finger right at my chest, and hissed, You will never be better than me. Never. You think your little startup makes you important? You're still nothing compared to me. You'll always be nothing. I couldn't help but chuckle. Not a loud laugh, just a small one, because the whole thing was so ridiculous. I said, Kate, you sound like a cartoon villain right now. Chill. That only made her angrier. She started pacing around my living room, muttering about how I ruined everything. Then she stormed out, slamming the door so hard the frame rattled. I thought that was it. Tantrum over. Nope. A second later, I hear crashing noises outside. I picked up the phone, the red dot blinked steady, and went to the window. She toppled the bins, booted the mailbox, shattered 2 new planters. An old lady from the corner lot, the one with the lilac hedge, stopped on the sidewalk. Hey, leave his things alone, she said. Kate snapped her head around. Back off, old lady. Mind your damn business. The woman steadied. I'm calling the police. Kate barked a laugh and kicked the mailbox again. Call whoever you want, then keep walking. You don't live here. She flicked her hand at the woman's phone. And don't point that thing at me. 2 neighbors raised their phones. This neighborhood should be grateful I'm even parked here, she yelled, punting ceramic. Don't startups write everything off? Eventually, she screeched something about how I'd regret this, jumped in her car, and peeled off. She shouted from the hall, Clean this place! If I ever visit again, I'm billing you for my time. I stepped outside, saw the mess she left, and sighed. Well, guess I'm going to Home Depot later. But here's the thing. This wasn't just a dumb tantrum anymore. She'd threatened me, trashed my property, and done it in front of witnesses. I wasn't about to let it slide. So I took pictures, saved the neighbor videos they offered me, and filed a police report. I bagged the neighbor videos, and a judge signed a same-day ex parte TRO. My state does that with police report plus damage plus witnesses. Hearing in 2 weeks. The evidence folder was titled Tuesday. It felt weird taking that step. She was my sister, technically. But at this point, she was more like an unstable stranger who happened to share DNA with me. If she wanted to play crazy, she could do it far away from me. Word got around the family pretty fast. Some relatives called me saying I'd done the right thing. Others said I was being too harsh, that I should have just let it go. But none of those people had Kate smashing their plants or screaming threats on their doorstep, so I didn't lose sleep over their opinions. Meanwhile, I kept it cool. Went back to work, hung out with my friends, checked in with Grandma, who actually laughed when I told her the story. She said, Good. Maybe now she'll finally face consequences. Gotta love Grandma. 2 weeks later, the judge converted the TRO into a 6-month no contact. She skipped the follow-up and it stayed in place. 3 days after the order went live, the video did what videos do. A neighbor's clip, Kate telling the lilac hedge grandma to mind your damn business and punting my mailbox, jumped from the block chat to a cousin's Instagram to someone's can you believe this Slack. By Monday, it was in a private channel at her office. A co-worker, one of the ones she calls junior resources, forwarded it to the managing partner with the subject line, Is this Kate? HR booked a same-day quick chat. They iced her first. Badge deactivated, calendar wiped, Slack gray. Then came the formal. In light of conduct inconsistent with our values, the email landed at 4:41 p.m. on a Friday, the universal time for corporate euthanasia. Her headshot vanished from the website before the out of office even posted. A client whose logo she loves to name drop pulled their retainer pending review. The co-worker didn't gloat, at least not publicly. They just sent the link and let the policy do the rest. Kate tried spin. First, it's edited. Then, it's taken out of context. Then, she drafted an apology that read like it had been run through a dehydrator. I'm sorry if anyone was offended. PR told her to try again with actual regret. She told PR to try humility on themselves. She posted anyway. Comments went feral, then quiet. She deleted. The video kept moving. A conference panel she was slated to moderate sent a gentle, "We're going in a different direction." A podcast host postponed indefinitely. A VC who'd once introduced her as a rocket ship replied with a polite one-liner, "Not a fit for us at this time." Screenshots of the HR email made it into a founders group text. scrubbed of names, but still fluorescent. In the family orbit, Aunt Helen's phone lit like a pinball machine. Grandma called it consequences. Plain as tea. Her startup felt it next. For all the independent talk, she'd built it on rented scaffolding. A marquee client here, a friendly investor there, a cousin's contact list as kindling. The scaffolding shook. One client paused the contract, then another. An investor wrote brand risk in an email that boomeranged straight to Dad. The board, 2 angels and a college friend with a suit, scheduled an extraordinary meeting. She called it a witch hunt. They called it runway. Either way, the numbers blinked red. I didn't hear any of this from her. No contact is no contact. But the updates had a way of finding air. Cousin Liv saw the badge email before Kate did. A friend of a friend forwarded the panel cancellation with a yikes. Even Victor, my uncle, got a text from the pianist at a fundraiser that read, "Is everything okay with your niece?" The room that once applauded her on arrival started watching their shoes. And it got to her. The perfect grid Instagram went dark, then came back as a quote tile about resilience in a font that apologized for itself. She rage-liked a post about haters at 2:13 a.m. and unliked it by breakfast. She posted a selfie from a co-working space captioned, "Heads down," then deleted it when someone asked, "Where's your team?" A college friend ran into her at a coffee shop and said she kept wiping the same ring off the table, round and round, like she could polish the day into cooperation. The alumni WhatsApp thread, once her personal press room, muted itself. She sent a paragraph there about slander and legal, and all she got back was a thumbs up from a number she didn't save. Her tone changed. Not the public one. The public one tried to be stainless, but in the corners where people still half knew her. She stopped correcting people mid-sentence. She stopped telling waiters she worked in venture. She started asking if anyone knew an employment attorney, just to look at something. When a mutual friend mentioned Grandma, she went quiet in a way I'd never seen quoted to me before. Pride is louder when it's winning. The money shrank. You could hear it in the nouns. You could hear, driver became rideshare. My assistant became this scheduling app. The hotel keycards on her counter turned into a punch card for drip coffee. She DM'd a former intern asking if they knew of fractional ops work. The intern sent a heart and nothing else. She couch hopped. She blamed optics, then jealousy, then small minds, then the weather. It didn't fix the rent. By the time the board met, the startup wasn't a rocket ship. It was a paper kite in a storm. They didn't fire her, they accepted her resignation, which is HR, for we pushed you out and offered a lifeboat with a hole in it. The website changed founder and CEO to founder emeritus overnight. She posted a farewell thread about new chapters that sounded like it had been put through a wood chipper. The likes were from people who didn't watch the video. Thing is, the restraining order must have hit harder than I expected, because a week later, I got a phone call I never thought I'd hear. It wasn't from Kate, it was from my parents. After the restraining order, I thought maybe things would stay quiet for once. Nope. A week later, my phone rang with a number I hadn't seen in years. Unknown number. My old blocks didn't catch it, but I picked up. First thought? Kate found a burner phone and was about to start screaming again. I almost didn't pick up, but I did. Within 10 days, relatives were circulating video of Kate's yard meltdown. Grandma lit into my parents. An investor emailed Dad about brand concerns, and the TRO paperwork landed. Then my phone rang. Dad had pitched Kate like a TED Talk to a client-turned-angel at a bar event last year. When Cousin Liv's Instagram served the yard rage video to half the zip code, it reached the same guy. Circles are small when you only network in one. It wasn't Kate. It was my mom. Her voice wasn't the bossy courtroom tone I grew up with. It was shaky. She asked me not to hang up. Then my dad came on and said the last thing I ever expected. "Daniel, we owe you an apology." Dad tried one last angle. "Your little performance cost us face, Daniel." "Kate cost you face," I said. I just said the quiet part out loud. Silence. Then the apology started to sound real. He admitted they'd been wrong all along. They never supported me, they ignored my epilepsy, they pushed Kate as their star while treating me like trash. Mom chimed in and actually said, "We favored her and abandoned you. We regret it." I told them flat out, "Do you have any idea how hard you made my life? You called me a failure for years. You told people I was a waste. That doesn't just go away." They were quiet for a long time, and then Dad said, "We know, and we're ashamed of it." Then came the wild part. They said after Kate's meltdown at my house, and after seeing how she embarrassed herself at Grandma's party, they finally saw what she really was. They told me they'd cut ties with her. Completely. No more money, no more bragging, no more covering for her. Apparently, her startup tanked, investors pulled out, and without their support, she was sinking fast. Mom said she's been calling them nonstop for help, but they're done. Dad even said, "She lost everything, Daniel," and it's her own doing. Hearing that was weird. For so long, Kate was their pride and joy, their golden child. Now they were throwing her out just like they once threw me out. Difference is, I built something. She didn't. I stayed calm and told them, "I appreciate the apology, but I don't trust you. Not yet. Maybe not ever. You can't just flip a switch after decades of treating me like garbage. If you want any kind of relationship, it's going to be on my terms." So I set the boundary. Logistics only. If it's about grandma or something important, fine. But that's it. They agreed without fighting me, which honestly shocked me more than the apology itself. A week later, I sat at grandma's tiny kitchen table, the one with the burn mark from a 1979 lasagna. No optics, no clipboards, just a ticking clock and 2 mugs of tea that tasted like permission. She slid a dented tin across to me, the one she kept stamps in. Inside, crooked stamps, a Polaroid of me in kindergarten boots, and a note in her tilt. "Proud of your spine. Keep that," she said, "and leave something here." I took the plastic sleeve with the letter, Exhibit A, and tucked it behind the frozen peas in her freezer. Insurance, she called it, and laughed until she coughed. Her freezer had outlasted 3 blackouts. If receipts needed a bunker, this was it. On my way out, she asked if I had socks. I said yes. For once, I wasn't lying. Since then, Kate hasn't vanished so much as faded. She's still there. You can feel her in the silence. But the shape is different. After the coworker sent the video to her boss and HR clipped her badge, the places that used to open for her started adding locks. The friend with the rooftop stopped squeezing her in. The panelists she texted stopped being available. The parents she used to orbit cut the power. She texted around them, old classmates, distant cousins, anyone with a gate and a spare key. But there aren't many spare keys when your name is trending for the wrong reason. Does any of that make me happy? Number. Satisfied isn't the word. It's quieter. That's the word. The room where I grew up learning to take a punch is finally not a room I'm in. Do I forgive my parents? Not yet. Maybe not ever. They apologized. I believe the part that hurt them to say. I don't owe them trust on a handshake. We keep it transactional. Grandma logistics, nothing more. The rest is mine. My life has furniture that doesn't wobble, a bank account that breathes, friends who carry electrolyte packets and don't make it my job to impress them. The practice child shipped fine. The black sheep invoices now. And Kate? The last thing I heard, secondhand, like all of it, was that she's looking for something stable, which is a sentence I've never heard in her mouth before. That's how I know it got to her. Not the comments, not the job, not the title stripped off a website. The word stable. The admission that gravity applies. That's not my victory. It's just the weather. Finally catching up. The practice child shipped fine. Black sheep's billable now.